Have you ever stopped to consider that in life's final moments, every word spoken carries a weight that can echo forever in the soul of the one departing and the one who remains? This question may seem heavy, almost unsettling, but it's impossible not to feel a shiver imagining the scene. A silent room, a frail body in bed, and the entire world reduced to a few breaths. In that moment, it's not the grand pronouncements that matter, nor the prepared speeches. It's the simple, almost ordinary words that can heal or wound irreversibly. But what if I told you there are words that should never be spoken in those hours, and that Carl Jung, the great master of the psyche, could help us understand why? Perhaps you've experienced this. Perhaps you've been beside someone at the end, unsure what to say, afraid of speaking the wrong thing. Or perhaps you fear the moment when it will be you, lying in that bed hearing and or not hearing what others say. Death holds a challenging mirror up to us, and language in that hour becomes a scalpel. It can open wounds, it can close them, and that's precisely what we're going to discuss today. But before we go further, I need to prepare you for an uncomfortable truth. Most people, even with good intentions, say things that sound like comfort, but carry an invisible weight, an impact that goes beyond the ear of the listener. And this happens because on a deathbed, words don't just stay on the surface. They touch primitive fears, deep regrets, and memories that perhaps were never spoken aloud. Carl Jung, who spent his life studying the human soul, said that words are living things. What did he mean by that? That what we speak carries energy. A phrase might seem harmless, but when it passes through such a delicate moment as death, it gains an almost supernatural power. Do you grasp what this signifies? It signifies that a simple "don't worry" can sound like "you're being a bother." That "everything will be all right" can be heard as "I don't accept your leaving." It's not about censoring those at the bedside. It's about understanding that what we say transforms into invisible marks. Perhaps you're thinking, but what if I say nothing at all? What if silence is the best choice? That's a fair question, and the answer isn't simple. Because silence can be comforting, yes, but it can also be interpreted as abandonment. What we truly need to learn, and this is what Jung whispers to us from the past, is to carefully choose what we say, so that our words don't leave wounds where there should only be peace. Today, we will explore 7 words that should never be spoken to someone on their deathbed. And make no mistake, these aren't curses, nor are they explicit insults. They are seemingly innocent words used every day, but which in a hospital room can transform into invisible spears. Before I reveal the first one, let me tell you something that might change how you view this entire conversation. Jung said that, in old age and in proximity to death, a human being enters a process of return to the self, a search for the ultimate meaning of their own existence. At this point, the mind is not just dealing with pain or illness. It is revisiting memories, trying to find peace in past decisions, reconciling with what was left unsaid, with what was lost. Now imagine, in this state where every second is a bridge between the physical world and something greater, someone arrives and speaks a word laden with judgment or denial. What does that do to this soul trying to free itself? What does that imprint as a last memory, a last touch of earthly life? I know this might seem abstract, but let me simplify. Words, at this time, are like photographs. They freeze a feeling. If the photo is one of serenity, of acceptance, the soul departs lighter. But if the photo carries weight, discomfort, guilt, that's what remains. And we who stay behind also carry that image. Perhaps you have an example in your own history. Do you recall something said to someone who was departing, or something you heard when a loved one passed? These memories cling. You might even forget the tone of voice, the smell of the room, but you never forget what was said. And that is why we need to tread carefully now. Throughout this video, we will dissect each of these forbidden words, understand why they carry such weight, and most importantly, what to say instead. But more than that, we will try to answer together a question that hovers over it all. Are we truly ready to talk about death in a way that brings relief instead of hurt? If you've stayed this far, you've already realized that this isn't just any video. It's not about avoiding blunders. It's not about quick tips. It's an invitation. An invitation to think about life through death, and about how every word that leaves our mouth can be a gift or a prison for someone about to depart. I will show you, word by word, the mistakes we've all made, and perhaps you'll recognize yourself in some of them. But before diving into this list, I need to ask you something. Don't watch this video as if it's only for that far-off moment when someone you love is saying goodbye. Watch it for yourself too, because in the end, we will all be that person lying there listening and wishing that the last words that touch us are of peace, not of burden. And this opens up an unavoidable question. How do we choose these words? How do we speak without fear of making a mistake? In the next few minutes you will find out, but be prepared because perhaps the first words we will analyze are so common that you've probably said one of them without realizing the impact it caused. Now tell me, are you ready to hear the first one? The first word that should never be spoken on a deathbed appears, at first glance, to be a gesture of affection. It's the common, "stay strong." Perhaps you've said this to someone in a difficult time because that's how we've been taught, to wish strength, to ask people to hang in there. But on a deathbed, this word changes its meaning. Stay strong sounds like an obligation, as if the person lying there has to fight, even when all they want is to rest. Imagine being exhausted, your body frail, perhaps in pain, and hearing someone say, "Stay strong." Instead of comfort, it brings a burden, as if departing is a failure, as if giving up is wrong. Carl Jung said that at the end of life, a human being seeks reconciliation, not a battle. And that is why instead of "stay strong," the wiser thing to say would be something like, "You can rest now." Because sometimes, the permission to rest is worth more than any encouragement to keep fighting. The second word, perhaps even more common, is promise. Have you noticed how we ask for promises from those who are leaving? Promise you'll get better. Promise you won't leave me. Promise you'll hold on just a little longer. At first glance, it seems like a plea for hope, but what does it really do? It places an impossible burden on the person lying there. Promise what? Something they have no control over? Promise not to die? Asking for a promise from someone at the end is like asking them to deny reality. Jung said that death is life's greatest act of surrender, and asking for promises is, fundamentally, trying to interrupt that surrender. The third word is one of the most frequently spoken, and perhaps the most dangerous: don't. You might think, but what do you mean, don't? Yes, don't in phrases like, don't say that, don't think that, don't give up, don't go. It seems small, but don't is a wall. It is a denial of the feelings of the person lying there. When someone says don't say that to a person talking about death, they are basically saying, don't make me face your departure. But the person in that moment needs to talk about it. They need to say they are tired, that they are scared, that they are saying goodbye. When we use don't, we cut off this possibility of expression. Jung taught that the unconscious seeks to symbolize truth. And if a person is prevented from speaking their truth, it creates a deep conflict, a feeling of isolation at the moment they most need to be heard. By now, you may have realized something. These words are not bad in themselves. They become harmful in context. And that is why the fourth example is so treacherous. Everything will be all right. This phrase seems, at first glance, like comfort. We say it to calm, to dispel fear. But think, what does everything will be all right mean to someone who is dying? Will everything be all right for whom? For her who knows she won't see her children grow up? For the family who will experience grief? Everything will be all right is, in truth, an escape. It is our difficulty in accepting death. Jung said that life is only complete when we accept our own mortality. By saying, everything will be all right, we take away the opportunity to talk about what truly matters: farewell, love, gratitude. Now we come to a word that might seem innocent but carries an invisible poison: guilt. Perhaps you never say the word directly, but it infiltrates phrases like, I don't know how I'll live without you. Don't leave me, I won't be able to bear it. It sounds like a declaration of love, but deep down it generates guilt. The person feels they are abandoning those they love, that they are causing pain. And at the moment of departure, the last thing anyone needs is to feel guilty for leaving. Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming oneself. At the end of life, this process should be light, but guilt makes it heavy. The sixth word is fight. How often have we heard a man or said, "Fight until the end. Keep fighting. Don't give up the fight." These phrases are well-intentioned, but they hide a trap. They turn death into defeat. They make it seem like those who die lost the battle, as if it were a personal failure. But is death truly a defeat, or is it simply the natural conclusion of life? Jung said that life is a cycle, and the end is not a failure, but a transition. By insisting on the fight, we deny this transition. The seventh word that should never be spoken, goodbye. This one might be the most delicate of all, because goodbye is a word of cutting. It's like a cold period at the end of a sentence. For many people, it sounds like abandonment, as if we are closing the door even before the person crosses through it. Perhaps that's why so many cultures have created other expressions. See you soon. We'll see each other later. Until next time. It's not just a religious matter. It's a matter of humanity. Goodbye can be a severance, whereas see you later is an embrace. Now perhaps you are asking yourself, but then what do I say? If I can't say stay strong or goodbye or fight, what's left? And that is the question that will guide us through the rest of our conversation. Because it's not enough to know what not to say. We need to discover what to say instead. And before revealing the alternatives, I want to open a parenthesis for something essential. You might be feeling a certain discomfort right now. You might be thinking of something you've already said, of someone who has passed, and wondering, did I unintentionally cause hurt? Did my words carry too much weight? If that thought crossed your mind, take a deep breath. All of us have said things we would say differently today. But blaming yourself now doesn't change the past. It changes the present. And here's the first small piece of advice. If there is something you wish you had said to someone who has passed, say it anyway. Say it aloud. Say it in a prayer. Write it in a letter. Jung believed that the soul is greater than the body and that certain messages still arrive. Now let's explore which words bring relief instead of burden, which phrases can bring peace, and how to transform the fear of silence into something deeper, a genuine presence. But first, I have a question for you. What if one day you were on the other side, lying there listening? What words would you want to hear? Perhaps the question I left echoing is the most important of all. What words would you want to hear at your own end? Because deep down, the answer to that teaches us what to say to others. When Jung spoke of the return to the self, he described a moment when the human being bids farewell to roles, obligations, and masks. And what remains? The essence remains. That purest self that was always there, hidden behind the demands of the world. On a deathbed, what we truly want to hear is not fight or promise. It's something that embraces that essence. Therefore, the first thing we can say in place of the forbidden words is simply, I am here. It seems small, but it's one of the greatest gifts one can give, because it demands nothing. It doesn't demand strength, doesn't ask for promises, doesn't deny what is happening. It simply says, I won't leave you alone. Carl Jung said that to know someone's darkness is the best way to truly know them. And in these moments, to be truly present, is to know that darkness and not run from it. Another powerful phrase is, I love you. It might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people never heard these words in life, or heard them far less than they needed to. And at the time of farewell, I love you is not just a romantic declaration. It's a seal that everything that was lived was worthwhile. It's as if we are saying, nothing that happened between us changes the essential truth. You were loved, and you are loved until the very end. But there is something even rarer, and perhaps more transformative. I'm sorry, because we carry small thorns throughout life, hurts, arguments, ill-spoken words. And for the person who is leaving, hearing a sincere apology can lift a weight they might not even have known they were still carrying. And for the one who apologizes, it is an act of humility that also brings peace. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious carrying symbols of reconciliation, and asking for forgiveness is to activate one of these deepest symbols. Alongside forgiveness, there is another sibling phrase, I forgive you. How many people depart feeling guilty? How many believe they failed as parents, children, siblings? To say, I forgive you, and to truly mean it, can be liberating. It doesn't mean erasing everything. It simply means the person doesn't need to carry that weight with them. Perhaps by now you've noticed a pattern. All these phrases have something in common. They don't push, don't force, don't demand. They offer. They offer presence, love, forgiveness. And that is the secret to speaking with someone on their deathbed. It's not about what you need to say to feel better. It's about what the other person needs to hear to depart in peace. And here is something many people fear: silence. You've noticed that so far I've talked about phrases, words, but the truth is that silence sometimes speaks more than anything. Being there in silence, holding a hand, looking into their eyes, can be the most profound declaration of all. Because true silence, not the silence of awkwardness, but the silence that says, I am here, I am with you, is a presence that no word can replace. Jung said that the soul has its own language, and often that language is silence. But there is an important detail. Silence is only powerful if the person feels your presence, if they feel that you are not just there because you have to be, but because you truly want to be. Otherwise, silence can be interpreted as abandonment. Therefore, even in silence, small gestures matter: a touch, a gaze, a gentle smile. Now, a delicate point: what to say when the person talks about fear? Because they will talk. They will say they are scared, that they don't want to go, that they don't know what comes next. And in that moment, the common mistake is to deny. Don't say that. Don't think about that. Do you remember the word don't from the previous section? This is where it hurts the most. Instead of denying, the best response is to validate. I understand that you are scared. Just that creates a space of comfort. And if you feel you can, add, but you are not alone. And what if the person says they are ready to go? This might be the hardest phrase to hear because it means accepting the inevitable. And this is where the greatest proof of love happens. Instead of saying, don't say that, try to say, it's all right, you can rest now. These words might sound like a goodbye, but they are not. They are a blessing. It is giving the person permission to go without guilt, without fear of disappointing those who remain. Perhaps you are asking yourself, but isn't that like giving up? Isn't that like saying, just go already? No, it is exactly the opposite. It is saying, I love you so much that I can let you go. Jung said that the most difficult task is to detach oneself from what we love most, and sometimes that detachment is the greatest act of love. Here I want to open a parenthesis for something personal. Many families, out of fear, try to hide from the person that they are dying. They don't speak openly. They pretend it's just another hospitalization, another surgery. They do this thinking they are protecting. But deep down, they are stealing the chance for farewell. They are taking away the opportunity for the person to say what they need to say, to hear what they need to hear. And Jung would say that this creates a shadow, something unresolved that lingers in everyone's memory. Therefore, if you are ever beside someone who is departing, try to have the courage to speak the truth. Not the harsh, cold truth, but the loving truth. Something like, we know the time is coming, and it's all right. We will be all right. Do you perceive the weight that this lifts? Suddenly, the person no longer has to pretend they are fighting, no longer has to hide their fear. They can be who they are until their last breath. And here comes a fundamental point. All of this we've discussed, the forbidden words, the right words, the silence, is not just for the other person. It's for you too, because one day we will be that person in the bed. And what we say today, the way we speak to those who are leaving, will shape the way we ourselves depart. Jung said that life is a mirror. Everything we give comes back. So, by learning to say, I am here, I love you, I forgive you, you are not just comforting someone, you are training yourself to live and to die with more peace. Now, let's take an even deeper step. Let's talk about the invisible impact of these words, how they remain in the memory of those who survive, how they can heal or haunt for decades. And we will finally open up the answer to the question that has been lingering since the beginning. What did Jung truly believe happens to the soul when it hears the right words or the wrong ones? But first, I extend an invitation to you. If anything up to this point has resonated with you, if you feel that this conversation is important, consider subscribing to the channel. Because it's here that we talk about what almost no one talks about, and we talk about it in a way that respects your intelligence, your history, and your time. Perhaps what's most frightening about death isn't death itself, but the silence it leaves behind. After a person departs, what remains isn't just physical absence, but the words that were spoken, and perhaps even more so, those that were never uttered. Carl Jung believed that everything we repress, everything we hide, everything we leave unfinished, transforms into a shadow that accompanies us, sometimes throughout our entire lives. That's why the words we speak on a deathbed don't die with the one who leaves. They stay. They remain in the heart of the one who heard them. They remain in the memory of the one who spoke them. And in some way, they linger in the atmosphere of that room forever. Think for a moment. If you could hear, right now, the last words spoken to your grandfather, your mother, a friend who passed, how would you feel? Relief or pain? This is the dimension that so many people ignore. When we say, stay strong, promise, don't give up, we think we are comforting. But without realizing it, we might be leaving a trail of demands, of burden, of something unfinished, and those who remain carry that trail. Years later, in the silence of a late night, it returns, like an echo that never fades. Jung spoke of the unconscious as a cellar full of boxes, and every poorly chosen word, every unresolved farewell, is a box we push in there, but which continues to occupy space. Until the day, suddenly, the box opens on its own. Perhaps you know someone who, even decades after losing a loved one, still speaks with pain about something they heard that day. I'll never forget what so-and-so said before they died. Or even worse, I'll never forget what I said and wish I had said differently. This is real, this leaves a mark. And this brings us to the most delicate point of this conversation, the impact of words on the soul. Jung believed that the soul is in constant dialogue with the external world. And at the moment of death, this dialogue becomes more intense, rawer, more essential. Every word that reaches the person isn't just heard by the ear, it is heard by the entire psyche. It is absorbed as a final map, a final compass. Think about it. If the last words you hear are of judgment, denial, or guilt, how do you think your soul will feel as it crosses the threshold? And what if they are words of love, forgiveness, acceptance? It's not a matter of superstition. It's a matter of deep psychology. Jung said that the psyche seeks symbols of completion. It needs a sense of closure, that the cycle is complete. The right words can offer that. The wrong ones can leave the cycle open, bleeding. That's why goodbye hurts so much. Because goodbye sounds like a cutting off, it's a stark period. But when you say see you soon, not until next time, we'll meet again, even if you don't know how, even if you're not sure what comes next, you offer the psyche a symbol of continuity. And the psyche, grateful, rests. Perhaps you think I'm speaking only for the person lying in that bed, but what about those who remain? The impact is double, because for those at the bedside, the words spoken also become permanent memories. I'll tell you something you've probably felt firsthand. The memory of a farewell is never just a recollection. It's a film we watch repeatedly, and each time we watch it, the words gain a different weight. Therefore, knowing what not to say and what to say is also an act of self-care. It's thinking, what do I want to remember 10 years from now when I think about this moment? Do you want to remember that you told someone who was already exhausted to stay strong? Or do you want to remember that you said, you can rest now, and saw a sigh of relief on that person's face? Jung would say that this is the true alchemy of words. They transform not only those who hear them, but also those who speak them. And if you've made it this far, you've probably realized something. This video isn't just about death, it's about life, because deep down, the words we should or shouldn't say on a deathbed also apply to life. How many times do we say, stay strong to someone who just wanted to be embraced? How many times do we say, Don't say that when someone tries to open their heart. How many times do we use words that close instead of open? Perhaps the secret is to live already choosing the right words. Not to wait until the time of farewell to say, I love you, I forgive you, I am here. Because if we leave it until the end, there might not be enough time. And here is one last reflection from Jung that is golden. Death is a goal as much as life. This phrase can be startling, but it is liberating. It reminds us that death is not a mistake, not a defeat, not an accident. It is part of the journey. And if it is part of the journey, we don't need to face it with words of war, but with words of peace. Now, before I conclude, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes for a moment. No need to rush. Imagine yourself many years from now, lying peacefully. Around you, people you love. And someone comes close to your ear to say the last words you will hear in this world. What would you want them to be? Perhaps you want to hear, I am here. Perhaps you can go in peace. Perhaps a simple, I love you. And now change the scene. Imagine yourself on the other side, sitting beside someone. What words will you say? Everything we discussed today serves to prepare for that moment, so that, when it arrives, you don't have to improvise. You will already know that stay strong, fight, don't, promise, guilt, goodbye, and everything will be all right are words that carry weight. And that, in their place, there is an entire vocabulary of words that bring relief, that liberate, that give peace. If you have understood this, something has already changed within you. Perhaps, starting today, you will begin to say, I love you more often. Perhaps you will start asking for forgiveness without waiting for a critical moment. Perhaps you will learn to say, I am here, even when there is nothing else to say. And if that happens, you will not only comfort those who are departing. You will begin to build right now a lighter path for your own departure. Carl Jung left us many lessons about the soul, but perhaps none as practical as this. The words we use are seeds. Some germinate in peace, others in pain. It is up to us to choose what to plant. And I end with one last question. Perhaps the most important in this video. Tomorrow when you wake up, what words will you choose? If this conversation has touched something in you, if it has made you think in a new way, I ask you for a simple gesture. Subscribe to the channel, because here we talk about topics that almost no one dares to discuss, and we talk about them in a way that respects your intelligence, your time, and your soul. And above all, share this video with someone you love. Because deep down everyone needs to know this, before the moment of need arrives. Because in the end, life is this, the words we speak and the silence we leave.